years. But you, as a prominent historian, man of authority on African history, what's your opinion on this Ethiopian claim on Eritrea?
Well, the claim is utterly worthless. Utterly worthless. It has no historical significance at all. It is a legend, which they like to believe. They like to say that they are the inheritors of the Empire of Aksum. The Empire of Aksum ended in the 8th or 9th century AD. All right, even if we accept, which I do not, that they are the inheritors of the Empire of Aksum, let us remember, this is a long time ago, the French in 1066 invaded my country and conquered it. Are we therefore now to say that England is part of France? Nobody is going to believe that. It is as foolish as that. It is a silly myth.
March is a month of striking heroic feats in Eritrea's glorious struggle for independence. It was 25 years ago, on March 17 to 19, 1988, that the EPLF forces dealt once and for all a blowing defeat through a 72-hour military operation to a special enemy command, otherwise known as the NATO-IS, which had constituted a significant portion of the Ethiopian Derg army. Obliteration of the 100-kilometer-long well-fortified front line of colonial Ethiopia's army at Nakfa ushered in the EPLF's transition from years of revolutionary standoff to strategic military offensive, thereby penetrating 70 kilometers deep into the enemy-held territory. From
latest battle on the outskirts of Afabet. At one point, retreating Ethiopian soldiers were forced into this narrow valley where Liberation Front fighters were waiting in ambush for them. There was little chance of escape as flames engulfed tanks and trucks. Burnt-out vehicles blocked the only road to safety. Days afterwards, the bodies have been cleared away, but the valley resembles a vast scrapyard. The mangled wreckage bears witness to the heavy losses suffered by the Ethiopians. In the newly captured town of Afabet, there's evidence everywhere of the close ties between the Soviet Union and the Ethiopians. The hammer and sickle stands at the entrance of the army's now almost deserted headquarters. Soviet officers fight alongside Ethiopians. The rebels took 3 of them prisoner in the recent fighting. The EPLF regards the capture of 3 Soviet officers in the battle for Afabet as a major advance. They say the
victory over the NATO command is considered by the historian Basil Davidson to be the most significant victory for any liberation movement since the Vietnamese victory at Dien Bien Phu. It has also been described as the largest battle in Africa since El Alamein.
At that time, a great historian, a scholar of the African liberation movements, was there present in the field. He is Basil Davidson. As you said, he compared the defeat of the Ethiopian forces in Afabet to the Dien Bien Phu in Vietnam, where the French built a fortress. They thought it was not, it was not attackable, but the Vietnamese forces, with their leader General Giap, they attacked, and the French were stuck there. And after 57 days, the French gave up, and they were ready to withdraw and to sign a peace agreement. In history, this is known as the turning point. And when Basil Davidson compared Afabet to Dien Bien Phu, this means that it was a historic event, especially for us Eritreans.
Mr. Basil Davidson, it's a pleasure to have you here in our liberated Eritrea. It's great of you to come here.
Thank you very much.
Well, how long have you been in Eritrea, and which places did you visit?
I've been in Eritrea, in free Eritrea, in liberated Eritrea for about 16 days. And I have visited many of the civilian departments of the EPLF, including those concerned with education, those concerned with agriculture, those concerned with medical care. I have talked to the people on numerous occasions about the structures of their daily life, the political life which you are introducing, the concept of participation. I have also been here, I must say, by accident. I didn't know it was going to happen at the moment of your great offensive. And so I have been able to hear a good deal about that and to witness, if at a distance, some of the great achievements, great military achievements, which you have scored here in Eritrea in the last 3 or 4 days.
You have written a lot about national liberation movements in Africa and also about Africa, and you have had direct experience in almost, I could say, national liberation movements in Africa like Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Cape Verde, Mozambique, Algeria. How do you assess the Eritrean national struggle vis-a-vis this national liberation movement?
Well, I think it brings me to my third point that strikes me, of course, and that is the relatively very advanced technological and organizational level which you have achieved. In these respects, it seems to me that this is certainly by far the most advanced, the most intellectually the best equipped of all the liberation movements that I have known in Africa in the past 30 years and more. Possibly it might be argued that the Viet Minh and then the Viet Cong were at your level. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But so far as Africa is concerned, I have no doubt that the experience of the EPLF historically will be in the center of the picture of the whole story of the struggles against the colonial systems. But I simply go on the evidence of the last few days. The last few days have proved that the EPLF is a highly superior force, both in terms of morale, in terms of tactical efficiency, because this clearly was a great encirclement maneuver. Of course, I don't know the details, but it clearly was. And in terms of morale, I said that, but also in terms of capacity to use modern weapons. You have captured some extraordinary weapons in the past, and I have seen in use or in position heavy artillery, which you've taken from the enemy, tanks in plenty. Now you have, I'm sure, plenty more, which you've taken from the enemy. And this is a level which no other liberation in movement in this part of the world, in the Western Hemisphere, let alone Africa, has ever been able to achieve. Nothing like that has existed in any part of Latin America, and nothing like it until now has existed in Africa. So I have no doubt at all that you will triumph in this struggle, and I hope that this triumph can come soon, so that the sufferings may be shortened.
The news, the liberation of Africa, that you were present, I would say we were lucky enough to have you here when this historic achievements by Eritrean People's Liberation Army was achieved, and how did you receive the news? How was it, at that particular moment?
I was very, very pleased, but because the only way in which this war will be ended is by your victory. There is no other means of handling this situation. Not because of the suffering and the dead and all the rest of it. All that is very tragic and all that is very deplorable. But it wasn't you who invited the war, after all. It wasn't you who asked the Ethiopians to annex your country. It wasn't you who wished to be a colony. So clearly the blame lies with those who've not been able to solve the problem, and the blame therefore lies very squarely with the Derg, whether this Derg or the one before it, or Haile Selassie before him.
Do you envisage, as you a man of experience about national liberation movement, the emergence of independent Eritrea?
Yes,
in the Horn of Africa.
I believe it has already emerged. I have been living in it for 2 weeks, and this will continue. And this remarkable military success which you've scored over those whom we have to call the Ethiopian occupying forces, that's the only way in which you can define them, in my judgment. This confirms it. This confirms it. Circumstances, of course, I don't know, but it will happen. Yes.
Do you have any message to convey to the people of the world, in particular to the African people pertaining the Eritrean cause?
Yes, I do. Insofar as I have any influence amongst those who listen to me, especially perhaps those in my own country, and I hope those in Africa, It is past time that the world took notice of the realities in the Horn of Africa. And the realities are, one, that Eritrea is not and has not been and certainly will not be a province of the Ethiopian Empire State. That the EPLF, the national fighters of Eritrea, these are not rebels. These are nationalists fighting for a nationalist cause, just as all the other nationalist causes we have seen in the past 30 years have been. This is an anti-colonial struggle at base. There's no doubt at all about that. Africa should wake up to this. Africa should open its eyes to what is happening. The major powers should realize that the only way in which peace will come is by a just settlement here, and a just settlement cannot be in favor of this Mengistu Derg or any other Derg like it. There has to be a democratization of the conflicts. Cannot be resolved by force. They can only be resolved by democratization of the Ethiopian Empire State, and that means, one, the recognition of the right of the Eritrean people to independence, whatever they decide to do with that, their right. And two, the recognition of the centrality of the nationality conflicts inside Ethiopia proper, inside traditional Ethiopia, not including Eritrea, needless to say, and also only road to peace. And I think it is shameful that the OAU so far has not lifted a finger to recognize the realities of the situation here. And I can only hope that these victories, which you have now proved your existence, proved your worth, and proved your future, will bring the world to understand this, and will bring the OAU to confront this problem squarely at last.
The ruthless will of the Eritrean guerrillas is the product of a struggle for independence from Ethiopia which has lasted more than 25 years. In the process, they've resisted the full might of the largest army in Black Africa. In a country which is always hungry, the armed forces of Ethiopia consume more than half the nation's budget. There are 300,000 soldiers and a huge armory of heavy weapons supplied on credit by the Soviet Union. The conflict in Eritrea is crippling the nation, a fact which has never before been admitted.
I think any country, any government has the obligation, the priority obligation to keep the country intact by all means. I think this also is the obligation of the Ethiopian government and the Ethiopian people.
But this war is bleeding your nation to death, isn't it?
It is. It is, but what can you do?
The Ethiopian armed forces have been trying to capture this mountain for 10 years. If they could do it, they could very probably drive the EPLF right back towards the border of the Sudan, 150 miles away. But they can't do it. They've tried aerial bombardments, they've tried massive artillery, and they've even tried storming these slopes on foot. The result of that has been not hundreds, but thousands of casualties. This mountain has proved virtually impregnable.
ኢትዮጵያ የማይናወጥ ብሔራዊ ጥቅም አላት። ዓለም ዛሬ
They talking loud but they ain't saying nothing real. Truth stand tall. History don't kneel. Let's set the record straight. Dropping every day, bending history up, twisting facts their way, hiring army online, flooding fees with the fake, but the truth cut deep, leave a scar they can't shake, they can't hold half the ground that they claim, foreign aid, keep them standing without it, they lame, putting false stats out, trying to hustle the block, the world watching close, yeah, we all keep stock. They bring fools on TV, talking Red Sea and the sad. Forget the 30 years occupying, that's the real tab. Still dreaming Eritrea, part of their plan, but that door's locked tight. Try to knob if you can, high def cameras, AI faking coastlines, but a lie don't last. Can't erase the